The college football playoff field is set, and you would think now, the playoff field's set, the rankings are more or less done. JD and Kaiden probably aren't still giving us our favorite segment of every single week where we do a question for each team ranked in the top 12. You would be wrong, my friend. You'd be very, very wrong. To break it all down, to ask the questions, to give the takes, operating on the ones and the twos, doing everything you see here, and then some, your mother's favorite producer, Kaiden Smith. You might know him as Kato. How we doing, brother? We got the playoff field.
We're doing great, and it's because we have the playoff field. This is that time of year. Less games, not as fun. More important games, very fun. So I'm excited for the bowls, even some of these matchups, but definitely excited about this playoff field, man. I would be more excited if, the seeding looked a little different at certain spots, maybe a certain 2 spots. But, hopefully in the future, this will give us what we need to make some changes, hopefully, for this committee coming up. But nonetheless, excited about some of these games and just the logos that we have in here.
The carrot is important, but so is the stick. I feel like we got a little bit more stick from this group of rankings for the future, but it is what it is. Number 1, though, Cato. Hoosiers.
Indiana, man. Huge win for the Hoosiers, 13-10 over Ohio State. First outright Big Ten title since 1945. They get the top seed in the playoff. JD, despite beating the Buckeyes, though, they still trail them in the national championship odds. According to BetMGM, Ohio State at plus 225, Indiana right behind them at plus 275. Should the Hoosiers be the national championship favorites after beating Ohio State this weekend?
It's tough to say no because we just saw them play, and so one team is clearly, based on the scoreboard, better than the other team. We talked about it too, Cato. Game could have gone a lot of different ways. I am putting myself in the position of Vegas and thinking about where I'm at if I'm making those odds, and you're probably still putting that Ohio State team ahead and saying, okay, we're going to give you lesser odds on the more talented team, but Indiana right there with them. Maybe they're just like kind of dangling the carrot, second carrot reference so far this segment, trying to get people to bet Indiana. I don't think there's a lot of psychology going on here, Cato. What about you?
Yeah, I think Vegas is obviously like a very interesting angle when it comes to who we really think is going to win the Natty versus not, and the brand names have a lot to do with the betting odds we see. I think it should be Indiana. I think to be the best, you got to beat the best. Yep. And not only was Ohio State the consensus, none argued number 1 team in the country, they were the defending national champs. And no one up until this point showed they could beat them since that playoff run last year. Indiana just did it. I think the way they did it, matching their defense with their quarterback making a couple more plays than your quarterback, who is a more experienced quarterback just at large too. I think they're the team to beat, man. I think they have the belt right now. I think they're the best team in college football, and I think that their branding, despite us literally watching them beat Ohio State, I think is still playing a role in the narrative around them, and maybe also the national championship odds too. So I think Indiana has the belt right now, man. I think they're the best team in the country, and there's not much more to say about it, man. We just watched it. It's interesting how head-to-head we, as a committee, as a college football public, when we're talking about the playoffs and the teams that are in the playoff, head-to-head is very important, but then maybe for betting in Vegas, a little bit different. So we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I think they should be the favorites to win the Natty right now.
I wonder how much of those odds is this idea of, well, if they played again. Because everyone loves to say, well, if you play a team twice, hard to beat them twice. And I wonder how much is this idea of 3 points, Ohio State still, I think, arguably the most talented team in college football. If they ran it back, would that game break differently a la Oregon, Ohio State? So it's interesting. It's an interesting spot to be for the college football public. And those potentially betting on the national championship here in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I selfishly hope we see them play again because I think those were the 2 best teams in the country, and that brings us to Ohio State at 2. Some people were making the case for Georgia maybe being at 2, but I think Ohio State's still the talent's there. They played Indiana great. I think it was clear watching that championship game. Those are the 2 best teams in the country. But like I mentioned, they bumped down 1 spot. They didn't run the ball very effectively. Indiana kind of lived in that backfield with a great defensive performance. JD, that was kind of the first time we've seen Ohio State play that caliber of team. Was there anything in that game that worried you for Ohio State's sake as far as them playing other teams now that'll be closer to Indiana than maybe some of the rest of the teams we saw on their schedule?
While I don't think Ohio State got exposed, the one thing that I'm eyeing a little bit more closely after that game is, offensive line had their work cut out for them when it came to dealing with that Indiana pass rush. Now, Indiana's pass rush is one of the better pass rushes in college football. They gave Dante Moore fits. They've been great all year long. But if you're thinking about the teams that Ohio State might have to play, like Miami can rush the passer. Texas A&M, Cassius Howell, he can rush the passer, so they're going to get one of those two teams in the second round. I'm really interested to see how Ohio State looks against those teams. Again, I don't think Ohio State got exposed, but maybe, just maybe, Indiana pointed out a little path here to make Julian Sayin uncomfortable, get him rattled, get him off his spot. He still played fine. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, like 250 yards, give or take. Still a good day at the office, but I wonder a little bit now if Julian Sayin isn't going to improve from that game here going forward. That is the formula to get Ohio State off their pivot and give them a tough time. So that's the one thing I'm tracking here relatively closely.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is kind of in that same ilk. It's like you saw all the graphics when they finally got down in the fourth quarter in the second half, and they're like, oh, this is the first time Ohio State's been down this season in this kind of moment. And you're just picturing, like, maybe not necessarily the exact stadium pulse, because, I mean, it was kind of loud in there, and there was an Indiana presence there. But I think from just an emotional, like, kind of moment standpoint, like, the stadium pulse was probably high for a lot of those players for the first time in a while. Yeah. So I think seeing if Ohio State will come out of this better or worse is going to be one of the biggest storylines of the playoff, because as just as easy as I could see Ohio State going on a run like they did last year, this loss bringing them closer and them learning from it and being better, I could also see Julian Sayin, who's still a young quarterback, maybe struggle against a Georgia, struggle against some of these other teams that are in the playoff field. So it's going to be interesting to track for sure, but I think that's one I'm going to have to just see kind of play out before having any strong takes about the Buckeyes, because to me, it is weird seeing them lose for the first time this season for sure, and it's kind of like, is there going to be more of this, or are y'all going to turn around and look like y'all did last year, and Ryan Day can really set the tone, being that he was the one coaching this team last year that made a playoff run that just from logo to logo, team to team, could be a lot harder last year than what you have to handle this year. So we'll see, man.
I hope that loss stings on a similar level that the Michigan loss did last year, because we all saw, I mean, we're talking about this infamous, seniors meeting or players meeting, whatever it was, and there was a certain sense of like fire and anger and pressure from the Michigan loss and the Indiana loss. Never good to lose. It sucks to lose the Big Ten title game, but we're talking about them still having a bye in the first round of the college football playoff, at the number 2 overall seed. I hope it still stings, because if it does, like you just mentioned, they'll regroup, they'll be a force. But if not now, we're still sleeping in silk sheets. A little bit harder to get rolling there with the Buckeyes, but no problem with them at 2.
Yeah, it can go either way. And moving on to 3, SEC champ, Georgia Bulldogs. The Dogs dominated 28-7 against Alabama in the SEC title game. All 3 phases of their game showed up: defense, offense, special teams. Got a block punt in there. That was huge. This team got better and better throughout the season. It's not necessarily littered with like all the top name, sexy first round NFL talent that Georgia normally has, that we've seen in the last couple years. JD, do you think this is Kirby Smart's best head coaching job at Georgia to date?
I think so. It's because of what you just said. Last year, you had double-digit NFL draft picks. Like, there was a lot of – you could have had more draft picks if Carson Beck had chosen to go pro and went how it went. But this Georgia team, with the profile they have from a talent perspective, with all the new players, Kirby Smart has proven yet again he's one of the best adapters in college football. He's talked about how they had to adapt their scheme at Alabama, going from size to speed on defense. He's talked about how they have to adapt with the transfer portal having less depth. College football keeps changing. Kirby keeps winning. Georgia keeps their same traits of being a freaking tough-to-kill team. So I absolutely think the way that Kirby Smart's got this team positioned right now, playing their best ball, and what they fixed from early in the year, Cato, I cannot say enough good things about the Dogs right now. But they are rolling. One of the most trustworthy teams, I think, in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and early in the season, they didn't look like that. Like, the first quarter against Tennessee, it's like, oh, man. Like, I don't know if I can trust this. And the fact that they were able to get better throughout the year and still win at their normal level. And then I think, to me, what makes it the most impressive coaching job for Kirby is, like, obviously they don't have like 20 guys getting drafted from this team probably like this season. But the fact that, like, this seems like the Kirby team that has taken on his identity the most. Like, we talk about Kirby's personality, how he sets the culture, and normally that paired with the talent is just like, that's when you get national championships at Georgia. But now this season, you have some younger players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that have to come along. You have your offense playing complementary football, bailing out the defense. You have the defense stepping up in moments and kind of doing the opposite. And this team really taken on that hard to kill mentality. And just hearing him talk after games, man, it just sounds like he loves this team a lot too. And I think that has to do with the job he's done coaching them up as well. All of a sudden now it's November and this team I feel like has just completely assumed the personality of their head coach. And that's what makes them really scary to me for sure. When you talk about what they did this weekend and what they could do in the playoff. I said it before. It's one of those logos where I might just have them straight in the quarterfinals, straight to the semifinals. We'll see with the matchups, but man, hard to kill is an understatement, man. They're a good-looking team, and they have a bunch of Kirby Smarts, it looks like, running around on the field.
How about the coordinators too, Cato? How many times have you and I texted after a Saturday and been like, hey, Boba was cooking today, or hey, Glenn Schumann had something in his bag today? It's just the way that he empowers and seemingly positions his coordinators to throw their best stuff at the most important part of their schedule. Like, they're just on all cylinders. They're firing from Kirby to the coordinators to Stockton to it's across the board. There's not a lot to not like about Georgia. And last year they kind of limped in, and we're all like, yeah, I don't know. It's a Kirby Smart team. They got traits. Gunnar Stockton maybe seems to fit this team better than Beck. I don't know. Like this year, the tenor around Georgia, even though they won the SEC again for the second, it's night and day and feels night and day by nature of this conversation we're having. So yeah, Georgia at 3, they're going to be a problem for Ole Miss, you imagine, then whatever the future holds from there.
Yeah, their head coach and the quarterback doesn't flinch, and people don't like to give Bobo his flowers, but we do that on this show.
We give him us.
We don't apologize
over here.
We don't apologize.
Golly, man.
Texas Tech isn't apologizing either for their investment in their football program this year. They come in at number 4. They earn a first-round bye after giving BYU just the business again in the Big 12 title game. JD, 2 games combined, Cougars versus Red Raiders. Texas Tech won that matchup 63-14. Maybe if people have some playoff opinions, might want to consider that with BYU as well. You look at their side of the bracket, JD, it's no joke. How do you feel like the Red Raiders just match up with teams like Oregon, Indiana, Alabama, Oklahoma on their side of the bracket that they'd have to potentially play to keep this a magic season alive for them?
It's so tough because right now as we record this, we haven't done our prediction show. And so usually we shoot our prediction show, then we do this show. And so there's sort of like this working opinion I have on, well, I think this team's better than that team. I don't know what to do with Texas Tech because that front 7 makes it very difficult to definitively take someone over them. Now, Oregon's going to be a tough draw, you'd imagine, in that first playoff game for Texas Tech. But, dude, I think, to put it simply, they match up is, I guess, the best way to put it. It's not a Big 12 team of the past where they have lesser personnel or they only have one way to win games. Like, they can beat you in an honest way on the line of scrimmage. I think that's huge, and I think a lot of people now are going to learn that when we see them in the first round of the college football playoff for them.
Yeah, I think their playmakers make plays. Like there's every game you watch with Texas Tech, the reason they're running up the score on people is because their playmakers get after it. The running backs make people miss, get that second, third level. The receivers make contested catches. Like they've been doing it all year. To me, it's going to be about that line of scrimmage and something that's kind of underrated. JD, I feel like that front 7 gets a lot of love for Texas Tech. Who had to practice against them all year?
Yeah,
all off season.
Yep.
I'm curious if their offensive line, with that in mind, if they can match the energy of their defensive line and hold up and give their quarterback, who's a little hobbled, some time. It sounds like he's getting better as far as them opening up at practice and stuff like that. They said he's normally just going through mental reps, but was actually able to get his reps in practice this week for Baron Morton.
Crazy.
That I think all of a sudden now, if they can kind of equalize teams, if their defense isn't doing any, I guess the opposing defense that's playing Texas Tech, if they can kind of match the same energy that their own defense is having. Like if it's a draw there, then all of a sudden I think it gets a lot more interesting for Texas Tech. So we'll see. There's some really good front 7s they could potentially play. It's some that we saw play this weekend, but I like the Red Raiders, man. I think very quietly, they're in a good spot for sure, despite their group having some brand names that might be jarring. But to cut the tape on, man, they get the job done. So I'm excited about them.
Coach McGuire on this show is like, hey, during the spring, during fall camp, we had to tell our guys, just because you're getting your tail whipped on the offensive line doesn't mean we're a bad unit. They're just a little bit different. I think it's a great point, Cato. Great point.
For sure. And the team they might have to see here soon that we'd probably project them seeing soon is the Oregon Ducks, 5 seed. Their playoff path, JD, number 12, JMU, then number 4, Texas Tech, then a rematch against Indiana. Do the Ducks have the best path to a national title in the playoff field? And just a sidebar, is the 5 seed better than the 1 seed? Reminder, last season Texas had the 5 seed. They play Clemson, the 12 seed. Then they play Arizona State, the 4 seed. Oregon last year at the 1 seed, tables have turned for them. They waited patiently, and then all of a sudden they're playing the winner of Tennessee versus Ohio State versus this year. Now Indiana's sitting there waiting for the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma. It doesn't sound like it's all jubilant as the 1 seed as people might think. But what are your thoughts on Oregon just at large with their playoff path and also just their seeding as well?
I think you nailed it. I think it's absolutely the best playoff path when it comes to a national championship. Also, we saw last year every team with a bye lost. Now, some of that is ASU against Texas and Boise State against Penn State, but still, I think the fact of the matter holds that you like to, in a 1-year sample size, have some rhythm, have some routine, keep activity. And some teams need rest more than others. But for Oregon, go back to what you said about their path. Like JMU's a 21.5-point spread for a reason, according to BetMGM. Okay. Texas Tech, we just said, not an easy out by any stretch of the imagination. But if you were drafting teams you had to play next, Texas Tech is probably first off the board versus Ohio State, Indiana, and Georgia.
They're 4, yeah. They're 4 out of the 1 of 4 that have the bye. So
right.
Naturally, yeah.
And then you also talk about Indiana, and I think Indiana's probably the team Oregon would want to play in that spot, just for the fact that it is a rematch. So I think to your point, man, like Oregon has the path, which I think Duck fans are like, about time we got a favorable path to the college. We're the number 1 seed playing Ohio State. How does that work? So I think what you said, the number 5 seed, I would in most worlds probably choose that as a path as opposed to number 1 seed. But I'll take the number 1 overall seed season of one of my conference, but I'll take the kind of mix and match there. That's what I would do, but I think the 5 seed is the best.
A little bit of both. That's probably the answer. That's probably what the committee needs to do is find some middle ground to where 5 seeds are not looking great. I mean, if you're playing a 12 and then you're playing the 4, I mean, a home game especially too. I know the schools would rather have that for sure. Is being a conference champion's cool, but like being able to host a playoff game is really cool too. One that you'll probably win handily and then play the lesser of the top seeded teams. Not too bad.
Easy. Maybe
the coveted 5 seed is what we'll start calling it here.
I like it.
In the future. But Ole Miss, they got a 6 seed, which is not too bad this year either. They draw Tulane in round 1, who they defeated 45-10 in September. But neither team will have their head coach from that matchup in this one. Lane Kiffin obviously going to LSU. John Sumrall of Tulane going to Florida. This could be for either team, not necessarily just Ole Miss. But how do you anticipate that impacting either of these teams really, and maybe not just Ole Miss when it comes to having a new head man calling the shots for a playoff run and during the game, whether it's the week of practice or the game itself, I guess?
I feel like for both sides, the head coach kind of is that X factor, maybe superpower is the right word. Like for Tulane, you listen to John Summerall, you're like, oh, culture, run through a wall, pull the most out of your team. For Kiffin, it's like the offensive prowess and game plan. So you dial both those back. It kind of goes to personnel in my mind. And with Ole Miss's personnel, there's a reason why the spread is what it is. Not to say anything less of Tulane, but just the way this thing shapes up, I think it equals the playing field a little bit more in favor of Ole Miss. And so I think that's kind of the story here for me, Cato.
Yeah, I think there's a way it could help both teams. I think galvanized Ole Miss from some of the stories we're hearing and stuff, like that could be a scary team. Like wouldn't want to play a team that is feeling like, oh, our coach left, let's show them. And they have a great opportunity to show them they could have won a playoff game with them at least. But that's that side of things. I think John Sumrall being the emotional leader of this Tulane team and hearing about his players talk about him and all that, I think if he just sends like a video a day of himself. Like,
he's on Cameo.
Yeah. They pump up the team. Like if they just – it's like before they run out to Vaught Hemingway, they just like, oh, we got a video from Coach Sumrall, and they play it. And then it's just him giving his impassioned, just fired up speech. Man, I think the odds change a little bit at MGM. So – we'll see. Could help Tulane out if they find a way to get Sumrall involved in the week. But all that's to say him not being there is a huge blow. He spoke highly of him on this show, think he's going to do great things at Florida, and him not being there, it takes away from me some of the chances I'd have of me thinking they could pull off this upset, especially with their interim Will Hall taking over. He was not a great head coach at Southern Miss, to say the least. Not that that's to judge him in this situation, but not every new head coach for the playoffs specifically is created equal. I think Tulane's in a tough spot here going to Ole Miss against the galvanized Rebels team. So we'll see.
I like the galvanized Rebels angle personally, especially in round 1. If you're Tulane, you're in the team room getting a pump up speech from John Sumrall via like his iPhone, I guess, and then you look, you're like, is that a Florida quarter zip? Is he giving us a pump up speech in the swamp? What's going on right now? And then you go, anything happens against Ole Miss, but why they play the games?
Gotta play the games. Yeah, we'll see. But we'll also see A&M, number 7. They got that 7 seed. They'll host Miami in College Station for the first round. We've seen the tale of two halves with A&M against South Carolina. We saw their most recent loss to Texas to end the season. We've also seen dominance from this team throughout the season. JD, is there a team with a higher ceiling and floor in these playoffs than Texas A&M?
Absolutely not. Maybe Miami's the conversation, but dude, what A&M's been when they're rolling, they erased a 27-point deficit. There was a point I think you and I were texting during the South Carolina A&M game, and the spread for A&M against South Carolina was like 18.5.
It was big.
They started coming back in the second half, and I think I texted you, I was like, are they about to cover the 18.5? Like, they are freaking they erased that quick in the second half. So, obviously, it ended up being a closer game in the fourth quarter there, but dude, when A&M is rolling, it's like the star power on like Mario, and you're like, dun, 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 like that's Marshall Reed in that offense when they are absolutely humming. So whenever they find that, God bless everyone else. But if they don't find that, like you just said, we've seen them be that team with the flat tire, and it's not just bad. It's like it's not even sustainable. Like you see Marshall Reed throwing interceptions, everything's out of rhythm, defense in a tough spot. Like when they're not on, they're really not on. There's no like, I'm sort of here, I'm sort of not. It's like either you're in person, ready to work, or you have an unexcused absence if you're A&M.
Yeah, the Mario reference, I think it'd be like the blue shell is always kind of there for A&M too. You might be in first place, everything might be going great, but that blue shell might be in the rearview mirror every now and then and just end things for you. No, I think it makes the matchup awesome for sure. We'll talk about it more with Miami, but I think the closest thing you could feel to like having doing a lottery ticket would be putting money on A&M to like win the Natty or go wherever they want. It'd feel like, all right, like it could be a long shot, but like for just the amount of chance I can't get this, that won't happen. Like it can happen too. I think that'd be the most exhilarating team to put a ticket on winning the national championship, because you don't have to squint to see it happening, but it could also just all go away in one half like that. So might have to entertain that. Sounds like a fun time, honestly.
Dude, how much the Texas game just made us rethink and reevaluate who A&M is crazy.
Marcel Reed goes down. Don't like that.
Yeah.
Often the D-line can't get to Arch, who's been gettable this year when it comes to just sacking quarterbacks.
After the first half, they got to him like at will. And the second half of Texas totally just made us rethink who A&M is, man. It's tough to unsee.
You have to do the body of work stuff, obviously, to like create the playoff and seed and stuff. But like, what have you done for me lately? Didn't love what A&M had in that game. But they're at home, great home field advantage. We'll see if they can tap into what they had early in the season. But another SEC team, Oklahoma, they take that 8th spot, the last home game in Norman. They beat Alabama the first time. Now they come back. If you're Oklahoma, JD, whether you're a coach or a player, do you feel better or worse about your rematch after watching what Alabama did in the SEC championship?
I think as a player, you feel good. I think as a fan, you're like, shoot, we watched that game and we saw us get outgained, out everything essentially. We created more turnovers, so there we go. But I think in that building, you're like, we had 15 in a blender the first time around. Like, we got something else for him. Like, Brent Venables now very quietly is 2-0 against Caleb DeBoer. So I think internally you feel confident, but as a fan, when you're not actually doing the preparation, you're not in process with everyone else, I would obviously feel a little bit on edge, especially because Bama's looked so lackluster. Like, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I think it'd be wise to think that Bama's not just going to roll in there and look how they did against Georgia. So a lot of layers to it, but if you're in the building, I think you feel pretty good about this one.
I think you do too, man. I think you watch that defense and you're like, oh, I mean, their offense is continuing to struggle. Like, they were like perfect. Like, this is exactly what we need. They outgained us last game, yeah, but we made the plays, and now they have potential to outgain them. Like, if I'm an Oklahoma fan, it's at home now. I know it's hard to beat a team twice, but after seeing that and now having the home field advantage, I think Sooner fans should feel good. It's exciting. But to stay on the other side of that coin, number 9, Alabama. Disappointing game for them in the SEC championship, highlighted by their worst offensive output of the season, I think, by far.
Yep.
Just in time for them to face the SEC's top scoring defense in a rematch at their place that you lost at home last month. JD, where is your Alabama offensive panic meter heading into the CFP?
Dude, it's pretty high. It is out of 10, I would say it's at like a 7, just because they've looked so one-dimensional. And the 3 is totally assigned. The 3 that I have left of that 10 is assigned to Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
But, I mean, with how dinged up they've been, if they're not any healthier and we're not getting more from those skill players or more from that run game, as much as you can like the defense, I don't like them out there with the offense that's just in freaking neutral, dare I say, reverse if you're going to go ahead and factor that in for like negative 3 yards rushing. So it could be a thing where, again, the ace of spades, Ty Simpson's the difference for you. But, dude, there's the wall you scale in picking Alabama to be elite offensively, again, is starting to run out of footholds, if you will.
JD, I think my panic's at 9, dude.
Really? Okay. I thought I was high. I thought I was a little bit high at 7. You're at 9.
I mean, there's like Ty is great. I love Ty.
Yeah.
We praise Ty on this show. He's one of our favorite quarterbacks in the country. Yeah. It was very clear that he can't really do that much if he doesn't have time. Like every quarterback needs time back there, and your legs can buy you a certain amount of answers to that. Oklahoma led the nation in sacks this year, JD. Like that's just not the kind of performance I wanted to see if I'm an Alabama fan. I mean, people are saying like negative 3 rushing yards, like some of the quarterback sacks take away from that.
Sure.
It was only like 20 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And one-dimensional against Oklahoma, when they've been sitting at home, they're watching the game, they were probably their coach probably breaking down the film that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Venables probably in the lab immediately knowing
gosh.
their playoff spot is set and they could play Alabama very well. So I don't love it, man. I don't. The reason my 1, I guess, on the flip side of my 9 is that they didn't play a lot of players in that game. They had 10 starters not playing in that game. Wonder if Alabama saw the graphic, 99% chance to make the playoff even if we lose. Maybe we don't care as much about this one. Maybe we'll let Georgia get even here and not really mind it as much after we beat them in the first place.
Beat them once, yeah.
Maybe they're playing a little possum for this, but man, like I said, SEC's top defense in scoring, top in sacks in the country, tied with A&M. Not a big fan. Now, maybe I drop it to 8 because you are playing a team that their offensive output themselves hasn't looked very great either. So We'll see, but the under might be looking at me in this game in Norman with Alabama and A&M just from what we've seen from these two offenses lately.
Do we know anything about R. Mason Thomas ahead of this game? Because he didn't play in that first matchup, and they still harassed Ty Simpson. So, again, if R. Mason Thomas doesn't play, you don't feel any less confident if you're Oklahoma. But if he does play, you're like, holy, we got the best defensive player on our team active now in this game, and he wasn't before. Like, here we go. So it's gonna be something. Yeah. I'm excited to break that one down.
I'm pumped for that one. As far as rematches go, couldn't be more amped for that one. But JD, I think the game I'm most excited for overall is Miami, the number 10 seed, going to A&M. They rightfully sneak into the playoff, in my opinion. And we'll take a trip to College Station versus Texas A&M. It's an awesome matchup. I think it's the hardest one to pick out of all these games as well, to no help of the 10, the 11, and 12 seed. This might be a little bit confusing, but stick with me. Hypothetically, if there was one Miami stat that you were able to know before the game that's going to happen in the game to help you predict who's going to win this, what stat would you want it to be? What Miami stat do you think would be the most useful where it's like, oh, okay, so-and-so is doing that. Oh, the offense is doing that for Miami. The defense is doing that. I feel better about how this outcome is going to be. What do you think is that stat for Miami in this game?
1, I love this question. 1. 2, yards per carry allowed for Miami. What's that running back room doing? Because if A&M has got something going on the ground,
that's a great pick.
It all flows from there. We got like 2.5 yards to carry. That means Marcel Reed's at bay. That means we're probably getting home a decent amount. That means no running backs gashing us. That means we can sit back, play the pass, and let our big dogs up front keep eating. So yards per carry less than 3. I'm rolling with Miami here if that's the case.
I like that one. The one in my head was the quarterback pressures. Like if you're telling me those Miami that front 7, Ruben Bain and Co, if they're gonna be putting some pressure on Marcel Reed, I don't even need to know how much they sack him, but I need to know how much regularly. If I could know before the game how regularly uncomfortable they could potentially make him, because I don't think pressure does a pressure count if they run out of the pocket and just scramble and gain 10 yards.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know
how
either.
They quantify that.
Gonna have to get to the stats department to figure that out.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think Marcel Reed and really Carson Beck, it might be the same question for me, honestly, both ways. Legit. I think both quarterbacks have been so volatile this year that if any of them could be off time, I think that would be a huge part of this game too. But man, I'm excited for that one.
It's gonna be so
stress
awesome.
it enough. Can't stress it enough.
It's gonna be so sick. Andy and Ari were in the office today talking about going to that game, and I was like, that's going to be electrifying. What's that number for you, Cato, when it comes to pressure percentage range? Hey, if they get to Marcel Reed to make him uncomfortable, I don't know. I'm not even sure what the number would be. 15% of the time. I mean, that'd be a pretty high number. Like if they're doing something like that, is that where you need it to be, or what's the average number you'd like to see? Doesn't have to be so specific to where like we matched up against what they've done this year, but just in this game, what percentage of dropbacks do you want pressured to pick Miami?
Yeah. So for me, I think even like Ty Simpson, like in the SEC champion, I think they only got pressured like 6 or 7 times, but like you could feel it every time, and it can result in turnovers every time. I think for me, if they're back there with Marceau Reed, if it's like 7 or 8, I start to feel better. Now, both of our stats combined would be clutch if we could know how good the running. Because with mine, I don't know what the running game is. For years, you don't know. For years, you don't know if Marceau Reed's just back there smoking a cigarette. So if it was like at a 7 or 8, like if they're getting to him twice a quarter, I don't love that for them. And then probably on third down a lot too. Like you have to have that kind of baked in as well. So yeah, if they can get back there, if they're pressuring him 7, 8 plus times, all of a sudden I feel like that's where it kind of turns to where it's like, okay, I don't love this for Marceau Reed. I don't love this for a quarterback whose feet get a little happy sometimes, and sometimes it's a dime, and sometimes it's underthrown, and we don't see the results we want to see. So excited about that game, man. But yeah, if they can get to Marceau Reed, I feel a lot better about Miami just because the repercussions of that as well. You could get turnovers off of that. You're getting off the field probably because it's a third down and your guys are pinning their ears back. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
I appreciate you not saying 6 or 7% on the pressure rate, and I also appreciate the idea of a Marlboro Reed being like his potential. I don't know if that's an NIL deal that would work, but just I don't know.
Yeah, 15% is a good way to put it. If it's like 15%, a quarter is like obviously.
That's a lot.
A quarter is obviously staggering, but a little bit less than that, we feel good for Miami, I feel like.
Love it.
Last one, I'm sorry, G5. I played in the G5. I'm a huge fan of the G5, but I'm combining 11 and 12 here with Tulane and JMU with my question. JD, which G5 team do you think has the better chance of pulling off the upset? Tulane going to Ole Miss or James Madison going up to Autzen Stadium to play Oregon?
I just think I think they remember last year pretty vividly.
Yeah.
I think that spread's probably about right when it comes to that game. Now, I guess Devil's Advocate says, well, but JD, Bobby Chesney's going to coach the entire playoff, it sounds like, as of right now. I don't think you have to squint as hard to see Tulane make this more interesting. Now, again, I don't think either game's like super watchable when it comes to the final score, but I think Tulane's familiarity, I think the no Lane Kiffin equation here. I'll go ahead and say also Jake Retzlaff, too, power forward quarterback.
That's a big factor for sure, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and roll with Tulane here. What about you?
I have to say the same. I watched JMU play in their conference title game against Troy in the cold. Troy's players getting snowballs thrown out at them. They had to make an announcement.
Yeah,
that'll be a penalty. Troy hung in there, man. I had to check if John Summerall was still on the sideline for Troy. I was like, Troy's scrappy right now. So that plus Tulane taking care of business for the most part against North Texas. They did a good job against that offensive attack that is elite. I have to go with Tulane here. If John Summerall's cutting promos for the team to deliver, especially, I feel better about that. But I think Tulane. I think the Autzen Stadium for a playoff game is going to be crazy. I think it's a further trip for the Dukes going across the country to Autzen. Oregon's looking very wagonish, in my opinion. Despite now all of a sudden
Oregon Trailish.
Their home loss, their one loss to the best team in the country, number 1 team in the country. Not a bad team to lose to, right? So,
whoops.
Yeah, man. I think it says a little bit more about how I feel about the Ducks. I do think the Ducks are just that much better than Ole Miss, to be frankly, right now as it stands. Yeah. But some of the details too, yeah, man. It's Tulane. It's Tulane's to be in the upset watch spot, I think, when it comes to them versus JMU. But nonetheless, man, you got to play the games, JD. What funniest scenario is all this talk about neither of these teams are qualified. And if either of them can just keep one close or give us a valiant Arizona State versus Texas level performance, that would be cinema. I'm rooting for this team to keep it close, man. I like watching good ball. I don't like watching anyone get blown out unless it's in opposition to the Mountaineers. But we'll see, man. We'll see.
I love it, Cato. Great stuff. Also, too, we're tracking for a record time, which we were aiming for before shooting this segment. We got to give the people what they want, though. Cato's question, the inverse, the upside down, if you will, to stay in vein of what the Stranger Things dropped. I haven't finished it, no spoilers, but working on that right now. if you had to pick a college football playoff team from this field outside of 5, so from Oregon down, Oregon the 5 seed, 6 gives you, let's see here, Ole Miss.
I got them up here, yeah.
A&M, yeah, Oklahoma, Bama. You can roll with Miami if you want to, and then if you want to go with either of the G5s and just become the mayor of either one of those specific college towns, more power. I mean, mayor of New Orleans would be the worst.
No
thing
thanks,
in the world,
JMU.
But it is. I mean, yeah, it is what it is.
I have Sunbelt citizenship.
I was going to say there's
Sorry,
allegiances
JMU.
there. I'm sort of filibustering here because I put you on the spot a good amount. Is there a team, if I told you got to pick from 6 down to win the national championship, who would be the horse that you're betting on?
It's the Ducks. I've been on
So 6 down. So Oregon off the table. I knew
Oregon
would be
off the table.
Oregon. I knew it would be because I was right
Okay.
there with you. I might pick Oregon.
Okay,
this
so
whole thing.
6 down. So no. Okay.
No Ducks. We
So you
kind
took the
of
Ducks from me.
we kind of took the.
I think I heard
the
you,
dominant hand
I
behind
heard
the
you
back
saying
a little bit.
I heard you say a number and down. I'm like, oh, he's first round bye is like gone.
Yeah.
Definitely give me Oregon.
Very fair.
Okay,
No.
that's a good call. Okay, so for me, man,
It's tough, dude.
it's tough because of the path. The path is what makes it tough. Because I like A&M and Miami over probably the rest of the field, but they have to get through Ohio State.
Yeah.
I don't feel great about either of those teams doing that, if I'm being honest.
And then play Georgia. Yeah.
Not fun.
Brutal.
Not fun. I'm gonna say Texas A&M. They're at home for their first round game. I like that with Miami. They could very well lose that game. And listen, there's teams that can make it further by results of the matchup. But like we said earlier, I think the ceiling for A&M is still very much there. I like their quarterback mobility. They have the most mobile quarterback in this tournament. And I think if their quarterback is like polished, like he probably will be next year. He said he's coming back. I think Marcel Reed, he's the hardest person to defend, I think, in the playoff. If it's humming for them, it's clicking for them, and everything's working. So I think just from the pure ceiling standpoint and just some of the DNA we saw in that Notre Dame game, I'll stick with A&M. I'd said before the playoff midseason that I had them in my natty. I don't necessarily have that anymore looking at what they have to get through to get there, but give me A&M, man. If we're going 6 through 12, I think they have the least flaws of anyone I've seen. They might not have been under the heavy bars as much as some of these other teams we've seen, and we saw heavy bar came at Ohio State very fast this weekend as well. So maybe A&M could put some of that pressure on them too in a hypothetical. So give me the Aggies there from 6 to 12.
I love that pick. Also, for those watching, this isn't something that Cato and I talked about before, just purely on the spot, just giving you bars off the top of his dome right there. I mean, the winner of Miami A&M is going to be tough to – because if Miami wins, you're like, okay, here come the Canes. A&M was a top 3 seed before a couple of weeks ago. I think that's a great pick, Cato.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We've forgotten about him a little too fast. So why not you, Ags? See what you got.
Not so fast. Not so fast, the folks in College Station. Cato, great stuff as always, man. On the ones, the twos, the takes, the questions. Appreciate y'all making this show what it is. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following the socials, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. Going to be a tremendous college football ride. Appreciate y'all joining us. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.